I went through every single player that played at the IEM Katowice event, found out what mouse they were using and put it all in a spreadsheet. And there is some very interesting stuff that I cannot wait to share with you. I'll reveal to you how sponsorships have a stranglehold on some teams, which manufacturers are the winners and losers over the past few months, and which players swapped mice during the tournament. Without further delay, let us begin. There were 9 total brands represented at IEM Cologne 2022. At Katowice, however, there was just 6. The brands that regrettably lost representation were Final Mouse, G-Wolves, Glorious and SteelSeries. Let's have a moment of silence. But those lost brands bring us down to just 5 in total. But that means there's a new contender. Endgame Gear. As Stayer from Sprout was using the Endgame Gear XM2 wireless, and Sprout are in fact sponsored by Endgame Gear, which means that he might be contractually obligated to use it, and that gave me an idea. I went through all the teams that had a possible mouse sponsor, and the results I found was quite distressing. 9 out of the 24 teams that attended had a possible mouse sponsor, and it's easy to see the dark influence that these disgusting corporations had over CSGO players, forcing them to use products against their will. Logitech sponsor 3 teams, G2, ENTS and Na'Vi. Out of those 15 players, 10 of them was using a Logitech product. The players that didn't use a Logitech mouse, I can only assume that they must name their firstborn child after a Logitech product. Razer sponsor Mouse and Ninjas in Pajamas. 3 players from Mouse are using Razer mice, and just 1 from Ninjas in Pajamas. FaZe, who are sponsored by SteelSeries, have used disgusting, strong-armed contract stipulation to demand that each one of their players to not use a SteelSeries mouse. It's appalling. On a brighter note, let's go through the winners and losers of IEM Katowice. No, I don't mean the teams or players, but what we are all truly fans of, the brands. Let's start with the big winner of Cologne, Logitech. Back then, a whopping 59 players were using their mice. Since then though, we've had some new releases from Vaxi, Zowie, Razer and more. So how much of these new products dented the share of Logitech? They went from 59 to 61. Zowie, who were second in the brands with 30 players using their mice in Cologne, went down to just 24, despite Zowie releasing a new wireless version of their legendary EC line. Only 11 players had used them at this event. Another brand that dropped players was Extrafy. They dropped from 4 to 2. However, one of those 2 players was using the brand new Extrafy M8. But now to some of the big winners. Vaxi, who have really started to plough forward in the gaming scene, went from 10 users to 14 users at this event, with the most popular mouse being the Vaxi XE Wireless. The biggest winner out of all the brands is Razer. At Cologne, the Viper V2 Pro had come out a few months before and only 4 players were using it. In total, only 7 players were using a Razer product at Cologne. That number jumped straight up to 18 people, and only 2 of those people weren't using the Razer DeathAdder V3 Pro. JDC, who was using the Viper V2 Pro, and Nafany, who was using the older Viper Ultimate, which is a bit strange because at Cologne he was using the Viper V2 Pro, so he's kind of gone backwards a bit there. The Logitech Superlight went from 46.6% share at Cologne to exactly 50% of users at IEM Katowice. There were 61 total Logitech users and 60 of them were using the Superlight. But one man refused to conform. One man stood strong against the pressures of owning a lightweight gaming mouse. Inns from Greyhound Gaming was using a G Pro wireless. He used it at Cologne and he's using it again. There is still a couple of extra bits of information to go, but it's still clear to see that the Superlight continues to reign supreme. It's no surprise that it's such a popular mouse after all this time, but it's also very interesting to see such a big uptake towards the Razer DeathAdder V3 Pro. Now, when I was double checking the mice that players used, going through VODs and a lot of photos, I noticed a couple of interesting things. There were 2 players that changed their mice mid-event. Config from Ninjas in Pyjamas went from a wireless Zowie mice to the Razer DeathAdder V3 Pro, and Drop from Furia went from a Superlight to a Vaxi XE wireless. And there is one other anomaly. Dexter from Mouse. His mouse was kind of hard to pin down due to poor quality VODs and just there being no photos of his mouse apart from one. And it looked like a DeathAdder V3 Pro wired. But that mouse hasn't come out yet. So I went back to the Rio Major and lo and behold he was using a DeathAdder V3 Pro in white. This man is using a wireless mouse plugged in. If you're wanting more 100% completely accurate information like how I provided to you now, I did a video going through 4000 Hz polling rate and whether or not it can make you a better gamer.